Jimmy Hoffa. On a hot Wednesday afternoon in July 1975, he drove to a restaurant parking lot in suburban Detroit. He had a 2 o'clock meeting. He told his wife he would be home by 4. An hour into the wait, he made a phone call. It was the last anyone would ever hear from him. Hoffa was 62 years old. He ran the Teamsters, 2 million members, $6 billion in pension funds, much of it quietly loaned to the Las Vegas mob to build casinos. He had been the personal enemy of Robert Kennedy for over a decade. He had served time for jury tampering and pension fraud. Richard Nixon had pardoned him in 1971 on a single condition: stay out of union politics until 1980. He ignored the condition immediately. He had been maneuvering to retake the Teamsters presidency. He had been threatening to expose the mafia families that had taken over the pension funds in his absence. The meeting was supposed to fix that. At 1:45, Hoffa pulled into the parking lot of the Makus Red Fox restaurant. He was meeting Anthony Provenzano, a Genovese captain from New Jersey, and Anthony Giacalone, a Detroit underboss. He waited. At 2:45, he walked across the road to the hardware store next door. He used the payphone. He called his wife. He told her the meeting had not happened. He said he was being stood up. He said he would wait a little longer. A witness in the lot later told the FBI she saw Hoffa climb into the back seat of a maroon Mercury Marquis around 2:50. There were 3 other men in the car. The car drove east. His own car was found locked in the parking lot the next morning, untouched. In the 50 years since, the FBI has dug under driveways, drained ponds, X-rayed the end zone of Giant Stadium, demolished a horse barn outside Detroit, and excavated a backyard in suburban Bloomfield twice. Informants have claimed he was crushed in a wood chipper, sealed in a steel drum, mixed into the concrete foundation of a New Jersey building, or compacted inside a Cadillac at a Michigan scrapyard. Every lead has produced the same thing: nothing. The case is still open. Next case.
It was a bigger mystery than fucking Jimmy Hoffa.
Harold Holt. He was the sitting Prime Minister of Australia. In the middle of a workday, in front of his own staff on a public beach, he walked into the surf, and a country lost its head of government. On the morning of December 17, 1967, Holt drove with 3 friends to Cheviot Beach, a rough stretch of surf on the Mornington Peninsula outside Melbourne. He was 59 years old. He had a recent shoulder injury, but was a confident open-water swimmer. The conditions that morning were poor, heavy swell, strong rip currents, low visibility. His friends watched him wade out. His head dipped beneath a wave once. He never came back up. The largest peacetime search operation in Australian history began that same afternoon. Navy divers, Air Force helicopters, police boats, and over 300 volunteers worked the coastline for 2 weeks. The water was searched. The cliffs were searched. The currents were tracked. The ocean returned nothing. Holt was officially declared deceased 2 days later. No death certificate was issued. There was no body to certify. The country had nothing to bury. In the months that followed, conspiracy theories filled the silence. The most enduring claimed Holt had been a Chinese intelligence agent his entire political career, and that on December 17th, a Chinese submarine had surfaced briefly off Cheviot Beach to extract him. A British journalist published the claim in a 1983 book. Australian intelligence officials have repeatedly denied it. Other theories propose suicide. Holt had been under intense political pressure over Vietnam, or a heart attack in the surf, or simply that the ocean had taken him and would never explain why. In 2005, after a 38-year wait, a coronial inquest ruled Harold Holt's death, an accidental drowning. The body of a sitting Australian Prime Minister has never been recovered. There is a public swimming pool in Melbourne named after him. Michael Rockefeller. In November 1961, an American visitor arrived in Dutch New Guinea, a region of dense jungle and crocodile coast that no Western government had ever fully controlled. The local missionaries were told 2 things about him. Do not let him photograph the wrong objects. Do not let him go into the water alone. The American was Michael Rockefeller. He was 23 years old. He was the son of Nelson Rockefeller, the governor of New York and a future vice president of the United States. He was the great-grandson of John D. Rockefeller, the man who built the largest oil empire in history. He had graduated from Harvard the year before. He was collecting wooden ancestor sculptures from the Asmat people, a tribe whose traditional culture included headhunting and ritual cannibalism. Dutch colonial police had been trying to stamp out both practices for decades, with limited success. 3 years earlier, in 1958, a Dutch patrol had killed 4 senior Asmat headmen during one such enforcement raid. The killings were never officially avenged. That detail mattered. On November 18th, the wooden catamaran Michael Rockefeller was traveling in capsized in heavy seas 8 miles off the Asmat coast. His Dutch anthropologist colleague stayed with the overturned boat. Michael Rockefeller stripped to his underwear, tied 2 empty fuel cans to his belt for flotation, and decided to swim for shore. His last words were, "5. I think I can make it." He was never seen again. The search included the Dutch Navy, helicopters, weeks of coastline patrol, and Nelson Rockefeller flying in personally with a contingent of journalists. Not a piece of clothing was recovered. Not a shoe. Not a fuel can. In the decades that followed, multiple Dutch missionaries, an Australian researcher, and a 2014 investigative book all reported the same finding from interviews with Asmat elders. Michael Rockefeller had reached shore. He had been killed by warriors from the village of Oostjanep, the village whose 4 headmen had been shot by Dutch colonial police 3 years before. He had been ritually consumed. The Rockefeller family has never publicly acknowledged this account. Officially, he drowned. Lord Lucan. On the night of November 7, 1974, a woman ran out of a townhouse in Belgravia, London, with blood pouring down her face. She crashed into a pub on the next street and screamed that her husband had just tried to murder her. Police entered the basement of the townhouse. They found the nanny stuffed inside a canvas mail sack. Her name was Sandra Rivet. She was 29 years old. It was her day off, but she had stayed in that night. She had been beaten to death in the dark. The wife was Veronica Bingham. Her husband, the man she said had attacked her, was Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan. Lord Lucan was a professional gambler, a regular at the Claremont Club in Mayfair, and a man who was deeply in debt and losing custody of his 3 children. Investigators concluded he had been waiting in the dark basement stairwell, expecting his wife. The 2 women were similar in build. He had attacked the wrong one. He drove to a friend's house in Sussex that night. He told her he had walked in on an intruder attacking Veronica. He left at 1:15 in the morning, driving a borrowed Ford Corsair. 3 days later, the car was found abandoned in the port town of Newhaven on the south coast. Inside was something that ended his story completely. A length of lead pipe wrapped in surgical tape, identical to the one used to kill Sandra Rivet. The seats were stained with her blood. The ferry to Dieppe had left Newhaven that night. Lord Lucan was never seen again. In the 50 years since, he has been reportedly spotted in South Africa, India, New Zealand, Mozambique, Australia, and rural France. None of the sightings ever produced evidence. His passport was never used. His bank accounts were never touched. His face never appeared on the security cameras of any port his family checked. In 2016, the British High Court formally declared him dead so that his son could inherit the earldom. He was 39 years old. Judge Joseph Crater. In the summer of 1930, a justice of the New York State Supreme Court returned to his court chambers on a Wednesday afternoon and began destroying his own files. He emptied his locked filing cabinets. He cashed 2 checks. He told his court clerk to carry 2 locked briefcases up to his apartment on 5th Avenue. That evening, he went to dinner. He stepped into a taxi outside the restaurant. He was never seen again. His name was Joseph Force Crater. He was 41 years old. He had been appointed to the bench only 4 months earlier by Governor Franklin Roosevelt. His private life involved Broadway showgirls and the political fixers of Tammany Hall, the corrupt Democratic machine that controlled New York City. The dinner had been at Billy Haas's Chope House on West 45th Street with a lawyer friend and a showgirl named Sally Lou Ritz. The dinner ended at 9:15. Judge Crater told them he was walking over to the Belasco Theater to see a Broadway comedy called Dancing Partner. His ticket to Dancing Partner was never used. His wife reported him missing 9 days later after he failed to return to their summer home in Maine. By the time the New York Police Department opened the case, every locked cabinet in his chambers had been emptied. The contents of the 2 briefcases delivered to his apartment were missing. The investigation followed leads through Atlantic City, Havana, Reno, and Paris. It interviewed mistresses, business partners, mafia bosses, and Tammany Hall operatives. It established that Judge Crater had cashed checks totaling $5,150 on the day he vanished, roughly $100,000 in today's money. The money was never recovered. In 1939, the case was downgraded. In 1979, 49 years after he stepped into that taxi, it was officially closed. For decades, to pull a crater was American slang for vanishing without warning. The body of Judge Crater has never been found. 5 powerful men, 5 different decades, 5 different continents. Not one of them has ever surfaced again, alive or dead. If you made it this far, like the video and subscribe. More cases are coming.